Understanding other people's situation requires an undeniable focus, attention to detail. In Nancy's situation, I have to make sure that I keep the necessary aspect of her piece focused. Because I'm not just Nancy's coach, I'm also Stefan's coach. And my whole premise in this process is to help bring the both of them out of the solitary confinement that they've created for themselves. Nancy, I'm so excited to have you back on. You know, you are one of my favorite people to talk to. From the last conversation, I am definitely excited about you coming in as we further dissect the conversation. Where are you? What is going on for you? And welcome back.
Thank you, Chantel, for having me. I love just being able to just be completely open and transparent with you because, I mean, there's no judgment. So, I mean, where I am right now, in a growing place, in a changing place, in a stretching place, in a little bit of a crushing place. So.
Got it. All of that.
All
of that. Crushing, stress, all of that stuff. And I think that's what makes the lemonade, right? So sometimes life will give you lemon. And so you find a way to get the little honey. And sometimes getting the honey isn't all of that pretty.
Right.
Because honey sometimes may not be pleasant.
Right.
The bees aren't so pleasant. But to get the honey and turn your lemon into lemonade.
Absolutely.
Is incredible. So I'm so happy that we're here to talk about that. And I remember from our last conversation, initially when Stefan brought you to me, what was your take and your thought on coming to coaching, and what men, if that was the first time where a man in your life ever recommended coaching, what were your thoughts? What were you thinking?
I was excited about it. I was like, thank God. Thank God. I mean, initially going in, I knew that he had already sought therapy. So being able to bring me in so that the both of us can have the therapy together,
Nice.
I was truly open to it, very excited, and I'm happy that he suggested it.
Yes, and I thought which I thought was incredible,
Right.
because of course you know, in the world where we live, that there's a stigma that men don't get coaching or get therapy.
Right.
And I'm a witness that I've seen a lot of men who's committed to doing the work for themselves.
Absolutely.
And I remember when you came for the first time, it was truly a pleasure. I saw your complete self. And I knew that it was important that I provided the space for you to evolve to your best and highest state. And so from that conversation, what was your expectation when you came in?
Coming in, I really didn't have too much of an expectation. I just wanted whatever was to develop and to be exposed, so to speak, would be revealed. There were a lot of things that I was holding back and harboring, and just didn't really know how to explain it or to talk, because I was trying to come from a very sympathetic, empathetic place, and to be patient with him. And so I didn't know what to expect out of it, but I was just happy that it was going to be in a controlled environment, so that way we both would be able to get whatever we needed out.
Got it. And so only to find out that it wasn't that space for you, because I remember initially when you were dating, you and I think from our conversation, you felt that what you got, the understanding that you got coming in a relationship isn't the same that when you are really inside the relationship. So tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, coming in, you know, he is amazing.
Yes.
And presenting himself as just someone who went through something extremely tragic, and showed himself as the first step to even going to therapy for that was just kudos for me, and to say that, you know, he was working through it and he felt, you know, that he was ready to move forward. And for me, you know, I saw nothing different than what he was saying. Presented in front of me was a whole person that was excited about moving forward in a relationship with me, and I was excited about it. And but that's when we were not living together.
Right. That's when, you know, it's the euphoria stage. Everything is good. And
Right.
did you think to ask specific questions during that time that might have been important for you today? Did you have a checklist? Did you, you know, a lot of time, as you know, as women or in society, we really don't have certain criterias or checklists. We just go into the relationship and then we discover later what we don't want, and then we harbor those emotions. Did you have any specifics that you had said in your mind that you weren't going to deal with, or some specifics that you were willing and open to deal with? So what were your expectations?
I had my checklist.
Okay.
And he checked everything off of my regular, and I want to say regular checklist of looking for a man. However, coming into this, there was a different checklist. This is a widow. And that's a different checklist. I've never had that experience. I don't know anyone our age who has that gone through something like that.
Right.
So I don't even know what to look for, what other things to ask going into a situation like that. So off of my other checklist, oh, he was everything.
Got it.
I mean, but then on the other side, I didn't know what to ask or what to look for in that situation to tell me that something like that happened. It's extremely tragic, but I don't know the questions to ask to follow up on, you know, so where are you in the grieving process, or you know, what transitions have you made? What does your home look like? Like all of these important things that now in hindsight, looking at that, I should have asked, but when you don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely. Sitting with Nancy and hearing her pain and her living in a prison and the solitary confinement that she made for herself, and believing that Stefan had created that space for her. Many of us live in that space where we think our condition has to do with someone else's. So the questions that I asked Nancy was really to provoke her to think outside of herself, to think outside of the present situation that she was going through, and to really identify the deep-rooted issue of her reality. So how do you feel now? I know part of the work and discovering the work with you and Stefan, there was a lot that you discover about yourself that was in a way of having life work for you, and you beginning to do the work, and he beginning to do the work. Where are you now? How do you feel now about the relationship?
We've come a long way from initially where some things were a little difficult to talk about. There are some things that are still a little difficult to talk about, and it's not difficult really for myself. It's just I don't know what still is a sore spot and what's not. There are just some things that are still evident to me that there is, you know, and there's always going to be some form of grief or working through the grief, and I still see a lot of that.
Tell me about that. So you get to see him weep. What are some things that you experience during this time where you have to step in and support him still doing that process? And what does that do to you as a woman?
I mean, it's a lot, because I mean, I'm in love with him. I love him, and then, you know, he's heartbroken because he lost somebody else that he loves. So then to now have to put my ego or feelings aside to just support him, all I can do is just be compassionate, because I just look at it, I have to look at it as just someone that is hurting, and if I was in that position, and I would want that same understanding as well.
Got
It's
it.
difficult. At times I want to be selfish, but in the grand scheme of things, of the relationship and how I want us to continue to grow, it doesn't serve us for me to have any negative emotions or
Right.
feelings toward it. Just doesn't help.
It doesn't, and I'm glad that you're looking at it from that perspective, because it to look at the negative and not have a remedy for it doesn't serve you. But still, in this position, you're sinking, you're dying internally. You're lacking, because quite frankly, Stefan isn't present to you or for you, because he's still attached to someone else. And I want to talk about that. And you have to show up in the house where sometimes you may need to become someone other than who you are. Let's unpack that a little bit.
Uh, yeah, I coming in, I just had a different vision of what it was going to be. And coming in, I realized very quickly that there was no space made for me. I was invited to come and to share my home and to share, to go on this journey, and then just coming and realizing that I'm a stranger. I'm a third wheel, because there was nothing. I had to kind of try to make my space without interrupting anybody else's anything. So for me, it felt like living on top of someone else.
So in other words, if I'm understanding, and from my previous conversation with Stefan, so you're pretty much living in a prison. So who did you have to be to accept that position as your fate?
I thought I was being understanding and patient. But like you said, slowly I started losing my voice, because it's tiptoeing around certain things, and the relationship started to revolve around Stefan.
To the point where you are non-existing.
Right.
And so it's Stefan, and then it's Jemima, and then it's Nancy.
Yeah.
If there is a
If
Nancy.
there is.
My God. And so Nancy is living in the house with the deceased wife clothes, parking her own garments next to her clothes, and repressing those emotions, not being able to address Stefan and calling him out on those things, and having some form of barriers, or even not barriers, but more so boundaries as to what I would or would not accept in a situation. And not to say that she needs to be insensitive, but I think she's overly accommodating. And part of that accommodation is what caused her to fall into that deep prison. So here you are in the house with the individual that you love and want to be with, and you are sharing a space now with him and his deceased wife, where your clothes now have to be hung next to hers. What was your first impression when you went into the closet, invited to a home that you thought you two would be sharing, to now be parking your stuff next to the other woman?
It was devastating. It was devastating because I felt almost bamboozled, and I know it's not anything that he meant intentionally to do, but you portray as if you're ready to move forward, and
Right.
you paint a journey and a vision, and then to get into that home, none of that looks like anything of what you told me.
Got it.
It looks like unfinished, like a dream deferred is what it looks like to me. And it's there's no place for me there.
Yet you show up in a prison, in a place that is not of yours. And I remember one time when we were speaking, something that really struck me, that you said that you feel sometimes you have to accommodate and become something, which means I think the something that we were talking about, it's as if you were being made to be the deceased wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you wake up to that?
Oh man. It was a lot because I'm coming in as myself, 100% me. And then there were certain things that were kind of like reminiscent of her that he would request. So it almost felt like it was a suggestion of trying to slowly make me look like, be like. And I know that it's not intentional and it's not, but sometimes in when you're not operating, when you're not fully present, you may be doing some things that you're not aware of.
Right.
And so part of for me, I felt like he wanted me to be her on some level, on some point.
And so the story in that is that she assumed that Stefan put her in that prison. He never told her that she couldn't ask him. He never told her that she couldn't confront him. She assumed that she couldn't because that's the law that she created for herself. So through these questions, those uncomfortable conversations, and asking the right questions, she was able to identify with her being the gatekeeper of her own prison. How do you live and wake up in that condition, the morals, your esteem? And I know a lot of time, and prior to coming into this relationship, you had your own trauma, your own individual issues that you worked through, and you and I did that work. And to be in this relationship where it should have been a form of upward transformation to now a pulling, a prison sort of being, Nancy, I don't know, words cannot express my deepest and most sincere appreciation for you, for who you're becoming, and for who you're committing to being, because that's a lot. And a lot to, do you fear sometimes that you might lose Nancy altogether?
Yes. Yes. And I think at some point in time I did. And that came out of just burying things, my feelings, because something like that, you want to really express how hurt you, but I just don't know how to do it. What's going through my mind right now is it's just bringing up a lot of feelings and emotions that subconsciously, to protect myself, that I buried away. If I don't think about it, if we don't talk about it, it's not really there. But really it is. It's the dancing elephant in the corner of the room that I'm pretending is not there. I even started looking up books, I couldn't find anything that would help me to explain how painful every day was.
Or every day is. Every day is. And in addition to it being everyday pain, you don't even have a shoulder or your partner to unpack that pain. And so not only are you in a prison and you're there alone, and sometimes, let's talk about some of the thoughts that come to mind for you.
The thoughts. There were a lot of insecurities that I had to battle. A lot of a lot of feelings and emotions that I had to just really, really fight off. Things like being measured up against her. Um, things like do certain songs and things trigger a reaction, maybe something that I say, or it's just always trying to be correct. And I don't even know what the correct is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just always trying to say the right things, not to be, trying not to be disrespectful, trying to be sympathetic and empathetic, and just trying to be very
Cautious,
careful,
yeah.
cautious with
Even
my
now, you're being
words.
very cautious. Even now, you're being very cautious, and because you don't want it to be held against you.
I don't want it to be taken
The wrong way.
And I think a lot of the issue for my was want to come off as just being hurtful.
Right. So how long do you suppose that you would stay in this condition? You would allow yourself to die an installment and eventually become the victim of distorted reality? How long?
I don't know. I mean, my hope was that in the work and the therapy that we were doing, that he would do the self-discovery, because I can't force that discovery, because then it would be, I feel like it would be resentment towards me, forcing someone to heal, so to
let
speak,
go of
or to
something.
let go of something, or I can't push, I can't force, and so for me, it was hope.
So you're still hoping?
The hope that how we started, we can get back to that.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, what space do you think you hold in Stefan's heart?
1 to 10. If I have to pick, I would say 7 or 8.
Got it. And why not a 10?
I'm not priority. I'm not, because there are other things that are before me.
Such as?
There's work. There's himself going through, what he needs to go through. There are other things. There are barriers in the way for him to actually really show up in the relationship as someone, as someone who wants to be in a relationship.
Who's available.
Right.
Right.
The thing about this coaching session that helped me the most really was reminding me that I need to use my voice, and that my voice is my lifeline, that I will die in my silence if I don't speak up about the things that are hurting me, the things that are problematic, and expecting them to just go away.
How does that make you feel?
Horrible. It does, because it's that, it's like the kid that stares out the window waiting for their dad to come home, type of thing, waiting, and it's like kind of like staring out the window, just waiting that maybe show up.
It's okay. I think being hopeful, you've been very strong. You've been very committed. And my reference conversation with Stefan, it's amazing. It's funny that you both rated a 7 as to what priority. So he's aware of where he is in the relationship, and he is aware that you are in a prison, and that in the prison that you're in, he indirectly put you there, not knowing that he didn't know that he didn't know. And so I want us to further discuss, you're still attempting to have this work. You have your own life. You have your own thing going for yourself, and you decided to take this on. What was an epiphany moment for you through our session, our coaching, that helped you to develop to the person that you are today to be able to address this situation and not lose hope or heart?
It was a breakthrough that we had, and that the breakthrough was him at a certain point that when we were having our session, it was like an aha moment. It was almost like scales falling from his eyes, and it's like, oh wow, I have been doing this to you,
Right.
you know. And for me, that was hope, you know, for someone to realize, then apologize, and then try to start to make some changes. That's hope. That's silver lining,
Right.
you know. And so with that, I mean, I just felt like if we continued working towards working that out, and on both parts, both of us, you know, both of us working on ourselves and then working towards a relationship as a goal, that, you know, we definitely come out on top.
Hello, my name is Chantel Malord with the Chantel Malord Show. I'm so glad you and I are connected. Remember to follow me on all my social media platforms and visit me at chantelmalord.com as we further this conversation. Let's stay connected.